Hi guys, so on this channel I tend to criticize Brexiteers, and I've explained before the difference between somebody who voted for Brexit because they were either lied to or honestly thought that it would make life better for all in Britain, compared with somebody who either doesn't care about the damage Brexit is doing because they are either a multimillionaire profiting from this mess, or just a racist who's happy to see their country burn as long as it keeps the foreigners out. Brexiteers are getting rarer and rarer by the day, but even more rare is the Lexiteer. These are people on the left who support Brexit, but even more rare is someone who claims to have voted Remain but now supports Brexit on the left. In stepped Grace Blakeley, who has branded the EU neoliberal and neocolonial and run in the interests of financial and corporate elites. I can't show you the video because ITV are strict with their content, but have a listen.
Another thing that people constantly blame, for instance, for the lack of workers is Brexit. Now, you described yourself as a Lexiteer. You supported Brexit, didn't you?
Well, yeah, for a number of reasons.
Do you still think it was a good idea?
I always said that Brexit was a process. It wasn't a fixed thing. And the way that it was handled was going to be dependent upon the political nature of the government that introduced it.
And this is the crux of the problem for the Lexiteers, the people on the left who support Brexit. They had this idea that, okay, back a few years ago, if Jeremy Corbyn had got in, if Jeremy Corbyn had won the election, they would get the Brexit that they wanted. And instead they got a type of Brexit that they didn't want. But the whole problem with all of that is, even if Jeremy Corbyn had won and Jeremy Corbyn had delivered a leftist type of Brexit, don't even know what that looks like, but let's say for the sake of argument, he won the election, got in, delivered on Brexit. The problem is that the Tories have been in power more of the time than the Labour Party have. And whatever protections, I don't know whatever he wanted to do or the Lexiteers wanted to do, but whatever protections they would have brought in for example, for workers, the Conservatives would have rolled them back the next time they're in power. But she still supports Brexit.
So the kind of Brexit that we've had, one led by the Conservative Party, has been aimed at really just kind of, slashing regulation, like not really protecting workers, not really protecting any of the good stuff about Europe. And actually introducing a lot more bad stuff. So I haven't been supportive of this.
Were you supportive of the... I mean, presumably the reason that you supported Brexit was because you were worried. Were you about freedom of movement? Too many foreign workers coming in and bringing down
much
wage
more
levels?
boring and technical than that. I mean, if you think back to people like Tony Benn, for example, they were all socialists who opposed joining the European Union because of things like you're only allowed to have deficits at a certain level within the Eurozone because you're not really allowed to have restrictions on the movement of money, not people, and because you're not really allowed to...
So she voted to leave the EU because of the economic restrictions placed upon the government, right?
I think that if we had freedom of movement and had, a bigger pool of a workforce, we wouldn't be facing so many of the problems we're facing right now.
Certainly, yes, but this is a much broader problem, I think. So I think freedom of movement would help, and the government's policy around restricting migration...
So would you have voted for Brexit? I mean, you did vote for Brexit, but do you think...
I voted Remain, but...
But you were a Leaver.
I voted Remain and then... got behind the popular vote, and I was initially a bit like,
you've always...
I don't know why we're talking about Brexit again. I thought we were done talking about Brexit.
No, we're definitely not done talking about Brexit.
I voted Remain, but got behind the democratic vote, and I had lots of very good reasons for doing so because I was always very sceptical about the European Union. Didn't want to vote for a campaign that was basically racist.
So you were a Leaver who voted Remain and then got behind Leave?
Yes.
Okay, so let me get this straight. She wanted out of the European Union because of, as she says, budget restraints, and because the EU is a neocolonial, pro-corporatist bloc, okay? So that was her... But then she turned out and voted Remain. Okay, I really don't understand this. So she's a Eurosceptic who voted Remain and now supports Brexit, even though her idea was that, well, I'd support Brexit if Jeremy Corbyn had been Prime Minister or if the Labour Party were in power. and the Labour Party delivered the type of Brexit I wanted. But the Conservatives won, Boris Johnson delivered the type of Brexit that I presume she didn't want, and she supports Brexit. I'm confused. You're probably confused as well, and I think maybe Grace is also a little bit confused. Perhaps she's trying to jump on some sort of bandwagon here, because how can you say, I wanted a left-wing Brexit, a right-wing Brexit was delivered? Well, first of all, I wanted a left-wing Brexit. I voted against Brexit. Okay, I voted to remain. And now I'm happy with the right-wing Brexit that has been delivered because of democracy or something. I would love to ask her, but I can't. I'd love to ask her, would you vote to rejoin the EU, considering the damage that a right-wing Brexit has done? Or are you happy to say, no, well, you know, it's not really affecting me economically. It's probably damaging other people. It has laid many people off their job. Many companies are struggling. Many people are struggling. People have lost many benefits. But it's worth it because, you know, democracy. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.